Alright, PC Mutant YouTubers. So Young Thug, let's just jump right into it. By the way, this is my winter attire. I just came from outside and it feels like inside of Donald Trump's heart in there, okay? It's cold, it's cold, okay? It's freezing outside. Anyway, so to sum things up with the Young Thug story, I don't know if you've been seeing the video, but there's a video floating around. And in this video, you see Young Thug and he's with his people and he's in the airport and he's having a debate with the agent at the counter, which happens to be a black woman. And I think it's actually two women that he's beefing with, but the camera's on, it's focused on one of the women. And so I don't know the full backstory, but allegedly, from what I understand, something must have happened where he either missed his flight or he was disadvantaged somehow, and he had a show that same day that I guess he ended up missing, or he was going to miss, and it was like a $150,000 show that he was being paid for. So he was very pissed off about that, which I understand. It makes sense to be pissed off when you know, there's some nonsense going on at the airline and now you're not going to make your flight. I got that. Cool. And so anyway, he's frustrated, and so when you see the video start, you don't see the origin of the problem, you don't see where it began, you just see what he recorded. And so when the video turns on, you see the black woman and she's turned another way because she doesn't want her face on the camera, and he's low-key roasting and cooking her. You know, you're a peasant, terrible at your job, y'all got me blah, 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 blah. And he has this big old briefcase, and it has a bunch of money in it. He's like, you know, I'll pay you $15,000 right here and right now to quit your job because you're that terrible at your job, and you're a peasant, and you look African, and you're probably African, you got deported, ha 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 ha, and you know, you zoom in on her hair, she got that nappy hair, ha ha ha, and that's pretty much the video. And so a lot of people were pissed off, like, dude, what the hell? So they started roasting him on Twitter. And so his response, especially to black women, because they were the main ones, like, oh, hell no. His response was, you know, oh, I love black women, you know, except the burnt ones, or something like that. And you're kind of like, okay. And then to kind of further fuel the fire, he did a response video like the next day where he's like, okay, a lot of y'all who are outraged are fake. Like, a lot of y'all black people are fake because y'all post all these videos of people fighting all the time. And you know, you post people and clips of people laid out dead in the street and stuff, and now y'all want to be all deep. You know, I'm black. You know, on the front of my car there's a B because that stands for black in my house. And you know, he's showing the video of the house he's in and he ain't got no furniture. And he's talking, you know, and the B on the so-and-so, that's for black. And, you know, so that was his 2 cents. And so I'm not going to spend this video cooking Young Thug because I ain't got that kind of energy. Mainly also because when it comes to entertainers like Young Thug and a lot of other public figures like him, there's a lane that I put a lot of them in because I recognize that I don't have an expectation for them because they've already shown themselves to be in a position where when it comes to being socially responsible, when it comes to any element of social consciousness, when it comes to any element of Pan-Africanism or any type of thing that relates to blackness as a whole, they don't really give a fuck about that shit. They're not really in a lane where that's their priority. They just want to be entertainers. And I said that about the Lil Wayne clip, and people were like, oh, you're giving a pass to Lil Wayne. No, I'm not. I'm just letting you know there's an expectation I don't have. So when I saw this video, I'm like, yeah, this is something I expect from him. So I'm not even that disappointed, but I'm disappointed at what those actions symbolize on a macro scale, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, so, because one, with Young Thug, I already had my 2 cents about him after the Mike Brown situation anyway. You know, Ferguson was popping off and everything, and they had asked him, what's your 2 cents on the Mike Brown situation? And his response was, oh, you know, I'm not, you know, it was an award show too. You know, no, we out here having fun. We iced out. We're not really worried about that. We're going to let the law, you know, you let them do that and let the law take its place. And you saw what the law did. They let, what was his name? I forgot the cop's name, but, you know, they let him get away with murder. But anyway, so Young Thug, he's in that lane. I put him there. There's a bunch of other entertainers that I keep in that lane. And so, because if I could, I would love to lock all of them in a room and just lecture them for 8 hours until they get it. But, you know, it is what it is. So, here's the issue I have with Young Thug's actions. I wish that he could surround himself with people that had more substantial viewpoints and perspectives of how the world works. You know what I mean? Because I think once you surround yourself with the right people, your actions start to change because people hold you accountable to stuff. And right now, because he's in his prime of his career, he's successful, he has his money, he has his accolades and fame, he has probably a lot of yes people around him, and he has a lot of people around him who aren't going to challenge him or call him out on anything, let alone if they recognize that what he is doing is sometimes backwards and wrong. But the issue I have is, one, the issue of anti-blackness, and two, the issue of anti-black women. And here's why I have an issue with that. When you look at the way that the world is currently going, the world has it out for us as black people, as people of African descent. The world has it out for us. They can't stand us, they hate us, they want us to die. If they could figure out a way to have a world where we don't exist, they would. If they could steal all of our culture and everything we've contributed to society and dump us off on the moon, they would do that crap. But unfortunately, it's not happening. So because of all of that, I personally feel that we don't have time to be divisive, and we don't have time to be divided over nonsense, because that's how white supremacy works. White supremacy teaches you and anybody under that umbrella that if you are not white, you are inferior, and that everything that you've been taught or everything that you think you've contributed to society is inferior, and it's something that makes no difference between today and tomorrow. And so you're taught that about not only yourselves, but anybody who looks like you around the world. And so you develop a negative perspective of anybody, especially in the United States. Black people, a lot of us develop a perspective of people outside of the United States who are of African descent as being less than or not on the same tier that we are, because some of us feel that because we've gotten a tiny piece of the American dream, all of a sudden we're up here, people in the Caribbean are down here, people in Africa are even lower. And that's an issue that I have, because that's how white supremacy works. It is something that's divisive, and what I need people to understand is, one, you have to look at the world from a global perspective. You have to look at the world as a global citizen. Look at everything from a Pan-Africanist perspective or a Pan-Africanism perspective, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, all of us are the same. Our cultures, we share different experiences, but genetically, we're pretty much the same. So whether you're a black person living in Polynesia, whether you're a black person living around Samoa or Oceania, whether you're a black person living in Central America or South America or the Caribbean or on the continent of Africa or on one of these colonized islands all around the world, at the end of the day, we're all under the same umbrella of a system that's screwing us over. We're under an umbrella of oppression. And so in order for us to matriculate and to be well, we have to fight against that as a cohesive and collective. You know what I mean? We have to fight as a collective unit. And when we're divided within our different units, and it's this group versus that group versus that group versus that group versus that group, that's a problem. So by him trying to insult her and call her, African, as if that was a bad thing, it just goes to show how behind he is when it comes to his education. And I'm not just talking about a K-12 education, but an education of self, and an education of what it is when it comes to the element of blackness. And when I'm talking about blackness, I'm not talking about what it is to be black, but what it is, I'm talking about the experience and recognizing the matriculation process of walking in black skin on this planet, and what you're going to face, and what's going to oppose you, and what hardships you're going to run into, and why it's important to be empowered and work as a collective. And when you're not educated in that, you're a walking fool. And that's exactly what he is, unfortunately. He's walking in foolishness. So because he's gotten a little bit of white success, because a lot of people are measuring their success by the standards of Europeans, meaning, okay, if I can gain this much capital, if I can gain this much commerce or revenue, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And then, at the end of the day, 20, 30 years from now, when you're not popping anymore as an entertainer, what happens? Then you have nothing. And now the money's gone, and you don't know what to value yourself by anymore. And then they be half crazy, and then they end up being drug addicts and everything else. That's how it always works. It's just the way that the system operates. But the other issue that I have is with the whole anti-black women. Because going back to this whole collective unit thing, when you just want to talk about the United States, black men, we make up 6% of the United States population. Black women make up the other 6 and 7% to total that whole 13% of the population that we make. And in order for black people in the United States to progress, we have to work interdependently, because we need each other, both men and women. And when you really look at the logistics of things, because that system that has been in place has screwed black people over so bad, especially black men, black women fortunately have been able to slip through the cracks a little bit better than us, and they've been able to accelerate and excel at things that we're not excelling at the same pace, because there's so many daggers that are being thrown at black men. So when you're looking at who's teaching our children, it's black women that are teaching our children. Are there black teachers and black community leaders and stuff? Of course, but there's a shortage, especially when it comes to teaching. And so you have a lot of black women who are teaching the kids. Black women are killing the game within law. Black women are basically running the law industry at the moment as far as those that are graduating. When you're looking at college education, black women are currently the most educated demographic in the United States. Black women are getting it in when it comes to the political power, when it comes to representation in media and distribution and production companies. Black women are the ones that are starting to call the shots and put it out there. And so a lot of us men, I need us to humble down, because in order for us to make it, we have to work together. The worst thing that can ever happen for us as a collective community is if black women are like, you know what, we done with y'all Negroes, y'all on your own, we got it from here, y'all do it on your own, because now we're screwed. And like I said, I think we work better as a collective. We need each other. And the thing that pisses me off the most is, especially with this police mess going on and how do we keep getting shot and killed every 5 minutes, who is the main demographic that's out there marching for us? You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I always say when it comes to the struggle of black men and the struggle of black women. It's hard to compare and say who has it worse, but what I will say is, even with all that black men have to deal with, there has always been black women behind us to support us. And I don't know if we can say the same when it comes to black women in reverse. I don't know if we're doing the same to them. And so that's why it's like you gotta, because you can dig in the history books and just look in the past. You go back to slavery, and you go back to the days of us getting lynched and whooped and everything. A lot of fathers were taking whoopings and lashings and getting the skin ripped off their back because maybe their child did something and everything like that. So now the father has to sit here and be emasculated in front of the entire plantation, in front of all the white people, in front of his kids, in front of his peers, in front of everybody he knows. And so now that he has to rehabilitate himself for a week, you know, there's that element of masculinity and manhood and that alpha male persona that has now been vulnerable and now has been shaken. Who do you think it was that was keeping the man somewhat empowered and making him feel that he was still the king of the castle? Because one thing that black women did during slavery was, even if the father went out and got beat down by the slave master or whatever it was, when he got back to those living quarters, while she was nursing him back to health, she made sure that the kids knew that this man is still the spiritual priest of the household. He is the one who's going to be calling the shots. You will respect him. He is doing everything he's supposed to do for us, and we are a team, this, that, and the third. And so that kind of kept hope alive for a lot of people. That's something that kept the family unit strong during that time period when everything that was going on. It's the same with the black nationalist movement. There were a lot of black women who were doing a lot of things to keep that movement afloat. They don't get a lot of the credit they deserve because, you know, we're so obsessed with our Fred Hamptons and our Huey Newtons, and we love them to death, but there were black women who were doing a lot. There were black women who were doing time and catching charges and doing all kind of things for black men at that time, and especially when somebody like Huey Newton, who is one of my favorite people in the world, but still, by the time Huey came out of jail and was high as a kite and drunk and everything else like that, who do you think were some of the people that were helping to keep the movement afloat? You know what I mean? And so we have to work as a collective. Us in this whole anti-blackness and this anti-black women thing, it's a problem. And anti-blackness has different levels. It's not just being anti-black, because a lot of it, when you start talking about the continent of Africa, if you as a black person think that you are better than somebody from the continent of Africa solely because you live in America, solely because you really don't know why, but you just think you are, that's an element of anti-blackness, because blackness is not limited to just the black social construct of what is in America. It's a global thing. And so you have to start thinking globally. And like I said, Young Thug, I'd be really pissed if I was somebody who was African. Like, I'm buying your music and now you think I gotta be the butt of your jokes, really? And I think as somebody who works in the community, I'm a little frustrated because, one, the main demographic of people I work with are second generation immigrants from West Africa. And a lot of them share, and a lot of the kids have anti-black viewpoints and perspectives. And they get it. I'm not trying to sit here and blame rap music for stuff, but a lot of what's going on, they're getting from what's going on in pop culture. A lot of the little boys that I work with, they don't like black women. They don't like African women. The women that they all want to date are Kim Kardashians and Kylie Jenners and racially ambiguous women, which is fine, but the problem is they've already been conditioned to believe that anything that looks like them is inferior and is unattractive. And so they think that they have reached social status, or they think that they have, reached a prized possession if they date somebody who's not black, if she's Latino, if she's Asian, if she's whatever else everybody else is that's not black. They think they've made some status. And that's why I'm like, and a lot of that comes from that culture that we currently have, especially in social media. All it takes is one white girl to go do a juju on that beat video, and then you got a rush of black men that, black girls, they better be watching out. White women are coming for them. And I'm like, why? Because a white woman on here looking like she having a seizure, and all of a sudden, everything that black women have done before is all of a sudden invalid because a white girl has a little bit of rhythm. That's how simple things are for some of us. Really, that's what we're doing. But anyway, I just find it interesting. So I need us as a collective to just really think about what our real needs are and what we should be focusing on and what's important. You know what I mean? And Young Thug kind of addressed it. He was kind of saying, I don't even think I'll probably be here in 5 years because, I'm real. And my thing is, if you're real, then give me the realness. Is your definition of real meaning you take these white people's money and you get some white money, but you're anti-black? Is that the definition of real, or did it change? I'm confused. What is the definition of real? Somebody please tell me. And the thing is, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack in this video, and a lot of people are going to say their 2 cents, but listen, it's not anything where I dislike him as an individual, but my thing is, if you can dish it, you can take it, because he clearly was real sensitive about the backlash he got. And I'm like, look, it is what it is. I get called all kind of crap on this channel. I've been called probably every name you can think of. But at the end of the day, I'm like, yep, I struck a nerve. They received the message. That's all that matters. So, yeah, listen, if you can dish it, you can take it. So, the Young Thug fans, I'm sorry to dish your boy. You enjoy his music, do what y'all do. If that's what you're into, cool. But you guys should be holding these people to a certain standard. If you're buying their music, if you're the demographic that's helping to pay their bills, make sure that they're respecting you. Don't be giving your money to foolishness and they disrespect you all the time. But anyway, so that anti-blackness, I need us to be a little bit more empowered. People need to read some books, get familiar with what's going on, and recognize and understand how great we are as a collective and what we've contributed to society and why everybody wants to freaking beat us. So when we go out of our way to do and say anti-black things and, you know, look down on people and other elements of other groups of people in the diaspora and think that we're better than, we're just fulfilling what white supremacy wants us to do. And the same when it comes to black women. You know what I mean? If we're constantly disrespecting them and treating them in a manner where we think that they're second tier to other groups of women, because there's a lot of black men who, they're not going to date a black girl. They think a white girl is the best thing in the world. Listen, date who you want. If you want to date a white girl, be my guest. But don't date a white girl because you think that black women are trash and you purposely are anti-black women and that's your justification for dating a white girl. I have another opinion on that, but I don't have, my video's getting short, but yeah. So my thing is, listen, let us just be great, okay? People, let's just be great. Let's just do what we need to do. There's a lot going on. We don't have time for nonsense, all right? We already about 2 steps away from getting shipped back across the water anyway once Trump getting there, so I'm going to need us to have our stuff together. We don't want to talk all this shit about our African brothers and sisters across the water, and when Trump puts us on that boat to go back home, the people in Africa are like, y'all Negroes not coming over here, all that crap y'all been talking, go back on over there, kata, this, that, and the third, go on and go. So anyway, I'm out, subscribe, share your 2 cents.